Hello, and welcome back to Women Who Lead. Thank you for joining us and for all your great feedback about the show. This week, we are highlighting the drivers of some of the most successful real estate companies in the country, and we'll feature the presidents who run these organizations. Each of these presidents right here they lead with passion and embody the strengths of integrity, compassion, loyalty, and teamwork. They are all part of the Home Services of America network of companies and franchises, and we're so honored to have their talents leading our organizations. Hello, my name is Theresa Placio Smith, and I'm Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer for Home Services of America and HSF affiliates. And as all you may know, this is our time to sit down together and enjoy un cafecito, a little coffee, and learn about these amazing leaders. I found this phenomenal quote, which I thought so befitting for today's panel. Leadership is not just an empty formula, but it's about establishing a deep connection at soul levels through service, integrity, passion, teamwork, compassion, and perseverance. That's a quote by Emmett Ray, and I just thought it was so great. Don't y'all agree? It was just perfect about
Beautiful.
what we do, right, every day. And I know for a fact that each of these women follows that formula of connecting on a deep level. So let's get started with the presidents as I introduce our guest today, Shauna Alt. Shauna is the president of First Weber Realtors, which is one of Wisconsin's largest real estate brokerages, established in 1971. Shauna has over 25 years of experience in real estate and has had diverse roles within the industry, rising from personal assistant to agent to selling manager to VP and now president of the organization. She's very committed to the industry and also has worked closely with Wisconsin's Department of Safety and Professional Services on real estate regulations and currently serves also on the board of the directors for the Wisconsin Realtors Association, South Central Wisconsin Multiple Listing Service, and the First Weber Foundation. This is a lot. Thank you, Shauna, for being here. Casey Bryan. Casey is the president of Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Florida Properties Group, Residential's division. She has over a decade of experience in the real estate industry and has served in every facet. And I love this quote. She wears every hat in the book. She's known within her organization as the girl boss. I love that. And is the ultimate trainer holding both her CRNC and Advantage Instructor license. She's also very involved in her community and is passionate about giving back and volunteering, working with organizations like the Sunshine Kids, United Way, Make-A-Wish Foundation, and has also served in fundraising events like the Pink Carpet Charitable Organization and KCRAR Rock the Block. I love that she is also a big fan of the number 5, which I thought was really kind of cool when I read your bio, because she has 5 kids and has lived in 5 states. That's really great. And Desiree Van Patten. Desiree is the president of Guarantee Real Estate, which is one of the largest real estate companies in the Central Valley area of California. She also has over a decade of experience in the industry and began her career with Guarantee in the Fig Garden office. In 2015, she was promoted to sales manager, and in 2017, led the merger of 2 offices within our organization. Desiree was named president of Guarantee Real Estate in November of 2019. And shortly after, what happened? Wow. So just in time for the pandemic to hit the market, yet Desiree has led the organization with grit, determination, and focus, successfully navigating these difficult times and helping the organization thrive. So I'm very excited to have all of you on the show, and it's an honor for me to know you and to work with you as well. So let's get started and learn from the presidents. And this is the first question that I always ask because I think it's so interesting to find out how people got started in our business. So I'm going to start with you, Casey. Tell me a little bit about how you got started in the business, then Desiree, and then Shauna, if you don't mind.
Sure, yeah. We relocated to Georgia, Augusta, Georgia, actually, for my husband's job. And I decided at that point I was going to be a stay-at-home mom, and had kind of taken a step back from the corporate world. And about 2 months into being a stay-at-home mom, decided that was not for me. My only interaction was a toddler, and just needed to be more challenged than that. And my father-in-law actually suggested real estate, and kind of set me along that path, and have never looked back. It's been an incredible journey.
Well, it's so funny that you say that. That's exactly what happened to me. We moved to Atlanta,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I decided to be a stay-at-home mom. And same thing. I was like, oh, I just can't do this. I've got to get something else. And that's how I got into real estate. So interesting enough. How about you, Desiree?
Well, actually, yeah, my kids, we moved to California in about 1996, and I'd been really involved in various guilds and organizations in the community. We were on vacation with my family, and my sister said, Des, you're really interested in doing something new. Why don't you think about real estate? It would be perfect at this phase of your life. So this was about 12 years ago. This phase of your life, it would give independence, control over your time, right? That's what we all think when we first get into the business, right? This magical independent thing, and we work when we want to and when we don't want to. But anyway, that's what I thought. And I also thought it was a great way to leverage my sphere of influence. And then the sphere of influence that I developed through organizations I was involved in, and school, when you have kids, you can't help but have several new spheres of influence. So it seemed like a perfect fit, and so I went for it.
I love it. And it is such a perfect fit. So for so many women, I think it's the perfect fit because of the fact that it does, for the most part, allow you freedom, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you can, work your schedule and team up with other individuals that can kind of cross, work with you. I mean, I have found that to be so liberating. And that's one of the reasons I got into real estate to begin with as well. Shauna, how about you?
I grew up in the real estate industry, and I swore that I would never have a single thing to do with real estate. I went to college in Charleston, South Carolina. I was going to be a marine biologist until I realized that actually involved math and science. So I have a degree in psychology, and after I graduated from Charleston, I moved back to Wisconsin. And was trying to figure out what to do with my life. And a good friend of my mother's, who owned a real estate company, which was First Realty at the time, called me into his office and said, you really don't have much going on, so why don't you give this a whirl? And that was the beginning of something wonderful.
So was your mother a realtor?
Yes. Yep.
So your mother was a realtor, so you're second generation. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, was she ever running a company, or did she?
Yeah, she was an owner. She had her own company. She eventually was acquired by First Realty, became a partner. But initially, I didn't want to work with her because I love her too much, and I knew how we would not necessarily work well together. So.
Well, it's really nice to see it, because I was at a conference this weekend, and I found out that there were so many children of Dean Golden with Jordan, so many children of realtors that actually have gone in after saying, no, I don't want to do that. And then realizing, why don't I want to do that? So it's really nice to have you, Shauna, and so glad that you decided to enter the real estate business. So this year has been faced with a lot of challenges. And Desiree, this one's going to come to you, because I can't even imagine, becoming the president of an organization, the challenge that has to do. You're a minority. I mean, let's just hit that one right off the top, right? In the Fresno market. I know Fresno, California, where you are. So how hard was it not only to have that challenge, but then have the challenge of hitting COVID at the time that you were coming into this beautiful role?
Yes, that was one of three when I really thought a lot about, what we might talk about today. And I was thinking about the biggest challenges. That one is probably has been definitely the most difficult one as a leader. And I think that the biggest challenge was dealing with the reality myself while leading agents who just wanted us as leaders to provide clarity understanding, clear guidelines, calm, reassuring everyone, advising everyone on, staying motivated, staying positive. So I would say, the biggest challenge is showing up in the way I want everyone else to show up, right? And that meant really putting in place some personal steps and some personal strategies every day for keeping my mindset where I needed it to be, and then being willing to dig into all the confusion, pull out the threads that would make things clear and calm for everyone around me. And I think that was probably the most challenging piece. Fortunately, I have a really good team working with me. My general counsel has been amazing. And so there were many days where we would be online, obviously everything was virtual all of a sudden. Fortunately, we lived close to each other, and we'd say, okay, we need a walk. We got to talk through this one. And we take a walk, head back to our little burrows, and got through it that way. Even though we were isolated, it was the people, it was the teams, the people around me that really helped get me through.
And you've done a great job. And I know that all of you, for me, also being part of Home Services of America and Gino's leadership, and then Berkshire Hathaway Home Services with Chris, and that whole embodiment of leadership, I think really helped us through those tough times. It did for me, because, having all the tools that we knew needed to move forward in the times that we were headed, also really helped, because they were already there. It was just using them. As we move out of this whole pandemic and start to get back, and I know Casey, Tampa is one of those areas. I mean, Florida, where I was, really has come out pretty much on the other side. So how is that going to be a challenge for you? How have you been able to lead? And Shauna, I'm going to ask you the same question.
Yeah, I think the hardest part is, if we look at the past 5 years, we're coming into a third market. The market that we're coming in post-pandemic is so gravely different than what we just came out of the past year and a half. Having to navigate through such low inventory and such high inflation, and being able to slow down the process a little bit, right? Things are moving so quickly at a pace that we've never seen before. How do you have really rich, direct, specific conversations when a house comes on the market at noon and it's sold by 2? There's no time for education and thoroughness, but it doesn't make it any less relevant, right? We still need to take that customer-centric, educator style role in the transaction. And I think the market is challenging us in that regard. So giving our team resources to help them be educators way before we get to the transaction, and really helping them be thought leaders of what the next 12 to 18, maybe 24 months hold, because I do think it's a very different market than what we've been in during the pandemic and what we saw prior to the pandemic.
And you know what, and it's all cyclical, right? We all go through this. And if you look at, real estate, even back, 20, 30 years, you can see that there's always that ups, and there's always that inventory. There has been inventory shortage. Now more than ever, it's worse, right?
Right.
You see that. And that's, I think, the number one challenge. However, there's also opportunity in that, right? Because there are individuals that have and are sitting on properties that can move, right? And can get advantage of those great prices, right? Right now. Shauna, how about you? What do you see as the challenges moving out of the pandemic and to 2022?
So I think the biggest challenge moving out is dealing with what I'm calling the sense of loss. Even though right now we're all moving towards something really positive, anytime there's change, you're losing something, you're giving something up. And our agents have been really involved and active in the market this whole time through. But what I'm noticing is staff, and trying to bring them back into the office. And even though everyone's excited to get back together, there's the sense of the loss of being able to control their days like they've been able to control them, right? You have to get up and get dressed and You're right, can't throw in a load of laundry in the middle of the day. So really trying to navigate that, which we have not called everyone back to work yet, and we're just in the process of creating what our return to work, protocols will look like. But that's probably our biggest challenge right now. I love what Desiree said about staying calm. As we go and transition through anything, and what I guess I've learned over the years is that it's always something, right? It was the recession, and then we got through the recession, and we had several really, really good years, and now it's COVID, and so we'll get through that. There'll be something else. And for me, it's always focusing on your people and identifying what they need. And if you can give them what they need, then everything else just takes care of itself. And showing up as the person that you want to be seen as. I love that.
And I do too. I think that's just ideal. And also, you're right. I think the loss too, that people are scared. They're scared, what if I go back, what's it going to look like? Is it ever going to be normal again? Which I know it's going to be different, even masked or unmasked, or do you have your shots or do you not have your shots? What's that position look like? So I think you're absolutely right, Shauna, with the way people are thinking and that sense of, bewilderment. They just don't know what to expect, and that's never a good feeling. So how are you able to keep people motivated? How are you able to have your employees feel like, hey, it's going to be okay, and your agents motivated during this time? And I think that's an important question, because I think all of us need to learn, how do we keep people motivated? So let me start with you, Casey, and then Desiree, and again, Shauna.
Yeah, I think the key part there is just showing appreciation, right? People have options, they have choices in today's workforce, and feeling acknowledged and appreciated for the work they do, no matter how big or how small, is such a key part of what we do. So, we take time to do handwritten note cards weekly. We take the time to acknowledge anniversaries and birthdays on a really personal level. And then add fun into the workplace. I think, at home, you're able to control the environment a little bit more. So adding a little spice to the workday, I think, is a great way to keep people engaged with each other. Make it about the people.
Love that. How about you, Desiree?
I love what Casey just said. And we have paid a lot more special attention to, handwriting notes to new agents who come on. Gathering together to help the community has also been really good. So, we've really pushed out organizations in the community that need help, and then form teams and come together to do that. Everyone wants to be reconnected. We've also joined up offices that were previously siloed. We've got 9 offices, and in the past, everybody did their own thing. And one of the things that the new technology of COVID, right, has made us really familiar and comfortable with, that has actually allowed us to bond more. So several of my managers, I discovered, started doing joint office meetings that they had never done before, to build the energy and to connect people more broadly with the company, since we weren't seeing each other in person. So that was one thing. And the other thing was goal setting, helping everyone to focus on, okay, we're in a really tough world right now, but what is it that we want to accomplish individually, and coming together to do that. So I would say that's been
great
helpful
advice. And I like the fact that, and I do think for all of us, that Teams and Zoom and these beautiful technology that we had before, but we rarely used it. I mean, I don't remember ever even calling somebody and not being FaceTime. Oh no, I'm not going to do FaceTime because I'm not, I don't look, I'm not ready, especially for women, which is harder, right, for us to do that. But having that and really using it and realizing that that's a way to connect and to stay in touch. And even though we can't, soon it's going to be that we can actually go out and touch, right? That can't wait for that. But how about you, Shauna? How have you, especially employees, because I think employees are also sometimes not as, they're not as front and center, because we're very agent centric in our companies, and it needs to be that way, but also the employees need a little love too. So how have you been able to keep your employees motivated and, working even from their homes? Because a lot of times setting up computers and all these things were a new thing for all of us.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is staying focused on what our vision is as a company. It's what we call our why, which it moves around the agents, but it works also for the employees, which is we are here to help people define and achieve a meaningful life. So we work really hard to understand what's important to people. How do they define success? And then how can we be a part of helping them achieve that success? With the agents, it's I don't want to say easier necessarily, but we have managers and everyone, as you mentioned, is very focused on that. With the employees, where they're really coming with the idea of serving the agents, there is a gap there that we have to be really conscious of. And it goes back to what Casey was saying, and it's all about appreciation. People have to constantly be told, how appreciated they are. What our staff has been able to do this past year remotely is just phenomenal, which I think is, probably true for all the companies that are represented here. Everyone has gone above and beyond, but it is truly because they're focused on, and they believe strongly in the vision of First Weber, and they want to be a part of that. They want to be a part of something bigger than themselves.
Wow. And you guys have such a great reputation too, Shauna, for the work that you do in the community, the foundation, your tight-knit group. I mean, I've talked to so many of the people that work, all of you have taken the At Home with Diversity course, and listening and hearing from that group was just so enlightening for me. So kudos to you, Shauna, for the work you do. And also pivoting now, let's talk more about your leadership and your style. And, all of us have had, mentors, individuals that we looked after, but in your ride to where you are today, tell me a little bit about a memorable event, something that really you realize, wow, that took me to where I am today, something that, that really has pivoted you and impacted you both professionally, and it can be even personally. And why was that such a memorable event? Desiree, let's start with you.
I think I would have to say this. Now, this was a decision I made when I was a sales manager. So prior to this, to getting this position, I think one of the best things that I ever did was hire a professional coach. And it wasn't really planned. It was kind of a serendipitous thing. I was attending a conference and I walked in and it just hit me, I really need someone who can just help me focus and hold me accountable. And that was, it was an event for me, because prior to that moment, I had really thought, I don't know, just read some good books and join an accountability group or so, and you'll be fine. And it just hit me that I walked into this conference and I saw the stand for coaching, and I just thought, why not? If I'm not willing to invest in myself and I'm ready to move to another level as a person, having no thought of having this position, that was a pivotal moment and one of the best decisions I made, I think.
Wow. Do you still have that coach? Do you still have?
I do.
Wow, that's great to know, because that question comes quite often from a lot of agents across. Should I have a coach? Why does it even matter? Mm-hmm. And you will find I myself, Gino, all the great, everyone, anybody, even those gold medalists, the Olympians, all have a coach. So I think that's great advice, Desiree, because it really helps you see things in a different light and help improve upon what you don't know, see in yourself. Right. And for some reason, because you're paying somebody to do it, it makes sense, right? Well, they're telling me what I need to do, so therefore I really need to do this. I think that's so enlightening. How about you, Carrie?
So for me, I think for me too, it was sales. So being given the privilege of leading at Reese Nichols, one of their offices, their Kansas City North office, that was for me a defining moment and event. And I remember after holding my first sales meeting as a sales manager with them, I just had this instant connection with the office and the group that was there. And I remember sitting back that night thinking, what a huge honor it was to have the ability to impact somebody's lives, right? They're running a business, and I have the privilege and honor of assisting in that and walking in that journey, and also thinking what a huge responsibility that is too, right? Because in addition to being able to impact their success, we can also be the reason why people fail. We you know, as a coach for our team, if we're not, you know, on our A game and really directing the potential we see in people, I think there's some limits in that as well. So I learned so much from Reese Nichols and the team that I had there. And from that moment forward, just remember saying, I'm going to be really intentional about never taking the responsibility I've been given for granted.
I love that, Casey. That's great. And, you know, it's so true, you know, making sure that, and you are, you know, an ultimate coach. I can see that that's your passion. And I've heard it from several of your agents that they just love that about you, because you help them achieve their goals faster than they could without you. And that's what is the significant impact that you make. Shauna, how about you?
So probably the most memorable event or something that changed my career path is somewhere in the mix of all my real estate things. I worked for the Wisconsin Realtors Association as their pre-license instructor. I did that for about 7 years. And you can really only teach pre-license law for a certain period of time before you start to go crazy, because you're teaching the same thing over and over and over again. And I would see all these people on the other side of the building that were the lobbyists, and they led this life that I thought was so exciting. And I wanted to be a lobbyist. And so I went over to, his name is Bill Malkasian. He ran the Wisconsin Realtors Association. And I said, I want to be a lobbyist. And he looked at me and he said, it's not you, you know, it's not who you are. It's not your skill sets. I don't think it's in your wheelhouse. And so, no, I mean, just like, boom.
Wow.
I was beyond devastated because I love the WRA. I love the people there. I was no longer enamored with my specific role. There were no other opportunities. But he was just like, if you're going to grow, it's not going to be here. We know you have lots of talent, so you need to go out and find them. And I was like, okay. So, but it's really the best thing that ever happened, because it is, you know, I had to look inside and what am I going to do now? And I'm not going to just go to work someplace that I don't love what I'm doing, even if I love the people. And so off I went, and it all worked.
And it was so good that somebody saw that. Sometimes you take it as a negative, but realizing, look, you really have a better path, and giving that advice.
Yeah.
You took it to heart, which is great, because I would have been devastated, and wouldn't know what to do, right?
It was devastating, but you know what I learned from that as a leader, right? Your job is to really, again, help people identify where they should be and then help them get there, even if that means that this organization isn't the best fit for them anymore.
Wow, that's really great. So let me start with you. So knowing that advice, what advice do you wish someone had given you years ago that would have helped in your leadership pursuits as well, outside of that what particular one?
You know, I think I was, you know, kind of reading through some of the questions for today, and that's a hard one that I've been unable to really come up with a good answer for that. I think you really have to believe in yourself, and you have to identify the people that have opinions that matter and the people that have opinions that don't matter. And then you need to let that other stuff go, you know. And Desiree, and getting a coach, I've thought about doing that, but I haven't done it. I think it's a fantastic idea because it's someone objective, right, that can help you filter out the noise and help you understand where really should your priorities be. So maybe the best business advice is getting a coach, and I'll kind of follow through on that.
Anyone else want to pipe in?
Yeah, you know what? I really stopped like Shauna and had to think about this, but then it hit me that it's something that I actually think about every day now, and that was making time for quiet, reflective, creative thinking. And then block the time to review what you've just been through the last week, every week. And that is advice I wish I had been given earlier in my career. And I think I'm trying to remember whether it was from Leadership Isn't for Cowards, or it was a leadership book that I read, and there a well-known CEO was being interviewed near his retirement time, and he was asked that question, and he asked what was the one thing he felt he did that had been pivotal for him and for his success in running this huge Fortune 500 company. And he said it was his patio chair time. And it was, well, what's your patio chair time? And that was a time that he blocked in his calendar every Friday morning. And he had a little patio, I guess, off of his office, and his special chair. And he pointed to the chair as he was speaking to this reporter. And he said, that chair right there, because every single week I sit in that chair and I reflect on where I've been, what I've done, what was good, what was not so good. And I think creatively about where I want to go the following week. And I wish I had had that advice earlier in my career. And I can't say I'm successful at it yet, which is why I think about it every single week and most days, right? Which is, okay, where's my reflective time this week? I look at my calendar and I think, okay, I'm not building that in and I need to do it. And there's no comparison between the weeks when I do it and the weeks when I don't. So that's what I wish I'd heard.
That's great. That's a great, you get a lot of great things to think about. I love this. Casey, how about you?
Yeah, and I would say, Desiree, that time is invaluable. My mentor told me when I was contemplating taking the position that having think time designated is important. It took me a year into the position before I actually built it into my calendar, and it's finally there as of a month ago, and it makes a huge difference. But with that said, I got into real estate when I was a baby. I was like 20 years old when I got into real estate. And as with many 20-year-olds, I was a know-it-all, right? Like just thought I could conquer the world. Nobody could tell me anything. So I don't know that I would have been humble enough to receive any advice given at that point. But I wish I would have had a little bit more life perspective, maybe, and a little bit more humility, so I could truly soak in everything that was around me. I was surrounded by some really great, hardworking people, and just taking little nuggets of what people said and did. I wish that I would have just had a little bit of humility earlier on to take that in. I also wish that I would have leveraged tools and resources given to me a little bit better. I think so many times we feel like we have to recreate the wheel, or we have to do things, we have to forge our own path. And that's not always the smartest direction to take, right? There's a lot of resources and tools and support that we could leverage that would make us much smarter in our endeavors. And I would say the one piece of advice that I was given a few years ago is never take advice from someone who isn't or hasn't been where you want to be.
Wow. That's great. I love that. It's so true.
Yeah.
And I think, the fact that, leveraging the resources and tools that you have, because sometimes we don't even know what we've got because we're so busy trying to figure out how to get to, what the tools are. So I totally see that. And there's a lot of tools that we have that are at our disposal that we can just use and we can learn from on things like this. I'll never forget one thing that I wish I would have been told, that I wish I would have done, and I didn't, and that is creating that monthly commitments of 10 things that you're going to complete, which is something Gino taught me. And so I started to do that, and I'll tell you why it has helped, because you prepare the month in advance, right, of what you're going to complete in the month of, right now, we're going to go through June. And then you're reflective because you then go back and look at what you did complete. But the entire time I'm looking at my month, I'm like, did I complete what I said I was going to do? Did I do this? Did I do that? But what's really nice is because you keep a tally, you can then celebrate the accomplishments at the end of the year. And you can see what you did and what you accomplished. And wow, I got a lot done. And had I not kept that list, at the end of the year, you're trying to figure out what all have I done this year. You really are able to at least commit to 100. If you look at that that's 120 things that you accomplished that year. And I think that's something I wish I would have known and I would have kept up, because I think it really helps you reflect and celebrate the things that you have successfully done, and also not necessarily fault the ones that you haven't, but learn from the mistakes that you made on the ones that you didn't complete. So I think that's, for me, really something I've learned that I've loved to share with people, because I think it's the best thing the best advice I've ever been given. So
that's a great idea.
Oh no, and it was Gino. He always talks about his monthly 10, right? Our 10 commitments. So on mentorship and coaching, and so who do you look up to for inspiration, especially in this industry? And it can be also professionally or personally as well. So Shauna, I'll start with you, and then Casey, and then Desiree.
So Bob Weber, who's the Weber part of First Weber, he has been just a phenomenal mentor to me, and he has been for years. It started right when I moved into a selling manager role, where we would, have these long talks over coffee, and a lot of them were, dreams and where do we want things to go, and what do I want things to look like. And he's very, very good at giving me constant feedback on, just little things here and there. And he's also very good at the big picture. In addition to Bob, I am surrounded by a phenomenal team with Tammy Medente and Kevin Donnell and Kel Svoboda. And, we all mentor each other. We all inspire each other. We all keep each other moving forward. So it's just been really delightful to work with this group of very motivated people, that are all focused on moving in the same direction.
Oh, that's great. How about you, Casey?
Yeah, I would say for mentorship, I had the privilege of working with Chris Kelly, who's the CEO of Ebby Halliday, and Mike Frazier at Reese Nichols, and two just really brilliant men, different leadership styles, but two men who were willing to pour every bit of themselves into their team, and willing to help us grow, and personally and professionally. Both of them have had great impact. Our two owners now, Dewey and Alan, have to be some of the greatest men I've ever met in my life. They are humble and spirited and fun and smart, and just so willing to trust in others. And I think it's been so great watching how they lead as well. For inspiration, definitely my leadership team. They are willing to challenge each other and have friendly opposition when it comes to conversations to help us elevate our end product. And my mom, she is a powerhouse of a woman, just tough and sweet and tender, all in the same. So she's someone that has definitely been a role model for me my entire life.
Oh, I love that. So sweet. That's very nice. I like that too, that you acknowledge all these phenomenal individuals within the Home Service of America family, right? That I couldn't agree
so
with
good.
you. And so different, right? The way they lead, but such
Yes.
inspiration and such great positive energy, which I love.
Agreed.
How about you, Desiree?
Wow, yeah, so many in the workspace. There have been so many people who have and continue to. My very first sales manager, Sandy Darling, who is very active nationally and statewide in the profession of real estate. She was my first mentor, encourager, and still is. She's still one of my sales managers. And she's still someone I go in, close the door, and I just know I'm going to get solid, centered, truthful advice. Scott Leonard, who was the founding CEO of this company, and who was the person who first talked me into being a sales manager, and then who approached me for this position. Just an amazing man. My right hand, my general counsel, Melissa White Holterman, is a powerhouse dynamo attorney. And I know that she will challenge me and tell me the truth. And then we can go and have a cup of coffee and we're good. We can go at it. And that's an amazing thing to have. My coach, and then just sort of an umbrella mentor, inspirer is my husband, Cliff, and my dad. My husband is just, his humor, I take life just so seriously, and he reminds me it is just not that serious. And his ability to focus, he can filter out everything, much to my dismay often, right? And zero in on where he needs to go. And that I would have to say, yeah. And my dad.
I love this. So I'm going to, and this is one of the questions that I asked you about risk, because each of you have taken risk. But have you ever taken a risk on someone and proved that it was, wow, yes, I'm glad I did. And why? Why was it successful? So since I didn't ask you that question before, anybody that wants to answer that question, let me know, because I think that's important. As you look at your own company, as you look at leadership, because right now, one of the challenges that we have in the industry, right, is finding leaders that we can elevate, especially women, especially people of color. So how do you look at that? What risk would you take in identifying someone that might be a good leader within your company in order to be able to fulfill that role? Any one of you.
Such a good question. I'm relatively new to this role, so just December of 2020. So I've not really had an opportunity to go down that path, but I am looking now, what does my team look like moving forward, right? Because when you first move into this role, you inherit the team that you were a part of, and now it's time to start identifying what your team looks like moving forward. So I don't have an answer to your question, but it is something that I am thinking about a lot. And historically, how I've chosen people to work with me is, do they make me laugh, right? Do I enjoy being with them every day? Do I trust them? And if you know that you can trust someone and that they have your back, that's what you need, right? Because we're going to go through the next, whatever the issue is, and you need to be able to turn to your team and say, all right, we got this, but we all need to be together, right? So I don't have an answer, but I've been thinking about it.
Anyone else?
Yeah,
I mean,
I was gonna say, I think that's a little bit of a phenomenal question, but for me, the risk would be, hiring people who fundamentally think different than you, right? I think it's a necessity to have that type of perspective within your team, but it also poses its own challenges, because if your fundamental thought processes are very different, there's going to be a lot of conflict. And so having systems in place to deal with that conflict, and when you don't see eye to eye, if they think the sky is green and you think the sky is blue, that's hard challenges to overcome within a team. So, both a necessity and a challenge, I guess, in their own regard.
I think you're absolutely right. For me, I know that I was a risk, when I was hired, because I really didn't have the experience in the area that I'm in, other than personal experience. But getting outside of that comfort zone really was what I felt was my biggest risk, right? And learning about the position, and then just moving forward from others that had done it and just getting that advice. But I'm really glad that Gino took that risk with me, because I was really scared. I was like, wow, I've never done this. I've never done this role. But for some reason, he just felt like, you can do this. And I think identifying people that can do the job. Maybe it's not what they've done, in the past, Shauna, or can't. This is not what you need to be doing. You should be doing this. You should be running a company. And identifying that, I think, is really what I see as an advantage, especially in our industry when we've got to hire other people that to fulfill those roles that right now are going to be left, when others retire, because we're seeing that coming upon us, right, in our industry.
Yeah.
All right. So what personal sacrifices, being that we are women, being that we're mothers, right, each one of us, have you had to make that you could recommend to other, what would you, recommend throughout your career that maybe, hey, I thought about this. This is something that can change, or something that certainly I would let somebody else know to kind of be cautious about. Desiree, how about you?
Wow. In thinking about the question, the biggest risk for me, honestly, and both Shauna, I think it was you, Theresa, and Casey have mentioned it, was leaving the workforce and deciding to be the primary caregiver for our children. And it was a joint decision that my husband and I made, because his career is so unpredictable. And we had made the decision that one of us just had to be there. So we didn't have, we weren't both in careers that allowed us to do it jointly. It had to be an all or nothing. And making that decision, knowing who I am as a person and my need for goals and measurable achievement, and then all of a sudden you don't have that. That was a big sacrifice. And to be honest, it probably took me a year or two to accept it and to begin to grow in a way that allowed me to see my value as a woman and as a person, as being an essential thing. I was essentially valuable. And whether or not I had someone else telling me and affirming me, is not what necessarily made me valuable. It was what I had chosen to do, and then what I was now going to invest in and how I chose to do it. That is what made me valuable as a person. It wasn't someone else's affirmation. So I think that was a big sacrifice, and it took me a little while to own it and feel joy in it.
And so many women, have that same feeling as you, Desiree. So thank you for sharing that, because I think that is something that we all experience, especially when we do leave the workforce for whatever amount of time. We no longer have that income, right, coming in, or we see that as a measure of success. And so there is success in leading. And I always say that whether you choose to have a career or not, your success is not based on financial, it's based on rewards that you provide with your own children, with, that raising families and taking care of parents or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean income all the time. How about you, Casey?
Yeah, I think similarly, I've got 5 kids, right? We've got our youngest is 8, our oldest is 22. And so being as present as you want to be, right? There's only so many hours in a day. There's only so much energy that you have. And when you're working in a career like what we have, there's only so much left of you to go around, and then come home and to be a really present, active mom with 5 different kids. That's a challenge. You're sacrificing sleep and sanity and some of the things that go along with it. I had to give up the notion that I had to cook dinner every night, and my house had to be clean before I went to bed. And if there was a dish in the sink, then we were in trouble, right? Like, I had to give up some of these walls that I kind of built over what type of mom I was going to be, and just be what I was capable of. And that's hard, hard to let go of some of those boundaries that we set upon ourselves, I think.
Well, and I know your children have to be proud of the work that you're doing now, and also that you're leading, an organization as well as a family, right? I think that's really, especially the fact that the dish, I mean, the things that we, who cares, like, right? Shauna, how about you?
Yeah.
I had to switch my mindset to not look at things necessarily as giving up, but as making specific, thoughtful decisions for things that I wanted. As both Casey and Desiree have mentioned, there's only so much time in the day, and you have to determine what your priorities are. And you can't be all things to all people. And so, making a specific decision of the priority that I wanted to have in my life, which number one is always health, because if I fall apart, then nothing else matters. So, which is a hard thing to learn, as a mother, and I have 2 boys and not 5. I don't know how you could even possibly begin to do that.
Wine.
Two is good wine, yeah. but identifying, okay, I need to always find time to put myself first and health first. The power of the word no is huge. And then it's family, and then it's, job, and then it's friends. And I think if I look at things that I've sacrificed, it would be some friendships, not that they ended negatively, but there just isn't enough time. And so there's people I haven't seen in years that I, love dearly. And if I bump into them on the street, we pick up right where we left off. But in my day-to-day life, they're just not a part of it anymore. And it's bittersweet, but overall, it's the decision that I made to get where I am. And it's those were the right choices to make.
Well, and I think that you've made the right choices, right? But you're so right about friendships. It's really hard because navigating the waters and being able to do this job and traveling, my biggest challenge, because I travel quite a bit, I lost a couple friends that I couldn't get together with them because on the weekends I wanted to spend with my family, right? I had to get work done at home, which we all have to do if we're home during the weekend. And a lot of times we're working, right? But just getting those regular day-to-day things done, you have to get that. You have to have time for that. So certainly, I totally understand, Shauna, and it is difficult. But you're right. You pick up right where you left off, and you will, for the friendships that really matter. So we're almost out of time. I can't believe it. So what advice would you give your own children, a personal friend, a family member today about life or business and the business that you're in? And Desiree, I'm going to start with you, and then Casey, and then Shauna.
Okay. I think my advice would be make the beginning of your day inspirational. Create a ritual for setting your mindset, and make sure that part of that ritual involves intentional gratitude, no matter what it is that you're going through, no matter what you're dealing with. It helps, I think, to have a faith of some kind. So I would say faith tends to drive everything, because everything that you see is colored by what you believe. So make time to meditate on what you actually do believe before you gift the world with your presence each day. I think that's probably the advice that I think would be most valuable for my kids.
That's beautiful. I love that. I really do. That's really special. Casey?
Yeah. Go after what you want. Know that you're going to stumble and fall, and don't let that stop you. Create happiness, right? There's going to be a lot of things that try to steal your joy, but we have control over the environment that we're around, and invest in people. You can never go wrong if you invest in relationships and people, and give more than you take, right? And last but not least, marry your best friend and someone who's willing to be a partner. I think it makes a huge difference in your overall happiness, and When you wake up next to someone you love doing life with, it changes your life.
Oh,
Cheers to that.
I know, right? Yeah, absolutely. Shauna, how about you?
Mine is pretty simple, and I would tell my kids your best is good enough. So every day you go out and you give it your all and you do your best, that's good enough.
Oh, that's nice. Nice to hear, because sometimes we try so hard and feel like we failed, right? And hey, your best is going to be all you, as long as you give your best.
Yeah.
That's really what matters. All right. So as we leave, we always end with, tell us either your favorite quote, a book that you want to recommend for everyone to read, or any advice that resonates with you that you want to share with your audience members. And I'll start with you, Casey, Shauna, and then end with Desiree.
Sure. There's a great book. It's not about the coffee. There is a line that I use religiously from that book. He who sweeps the floor should choose the broom. It's something that I live by, and I think it is such a phenomenal line that reminds us that we don't have to develop the process. If we give people the beginning and the end, they are so smart and they can figure it out.
Oh, I love that. And I haven't heard, it's called who?
It's not about the coffee. It's the founder of Starbucks, wrote the book about culture. And there's a one-liner: he who sweeps the floor should choose the broom. So
I think that's so wonderful. I love that. I love it. Shauna?
I would say any books by either Patrick Lencioni or Simon Sinek.
Mm-hmm.
I love both of their approach to life is, we're here to serve others. And, as long as you focus on other people and helping them achieve what they want to achieve, then everything else takes care of itself.
Awesome.
Beautiful.
Love it. And I would have to say, whenever I'm asked this, I keep trying to change my quote, but I keep coming back to curiosity before judgment. And that's from my dad. And it has gotten me through, when I remember it, it has gotten me through conflicts, difficult situations. Just because I think I know doesn't mean I know. And especially if there's a conflict going on, ask questions first. First, be curious. First, find out where the other person is coming from before you make a judgment and act on a judgment.
That is such
head to toe goosebumps on that.
Yeah, that is such great wisdom. I can see why your father is one of those people that you look up to. What a great way to end this show. I really appreciate all of you for joining me today. I know our audience does as well. And I absolutely love this quote by Sheryl Sandberg. And I think I love her, a lot of her books as well. And it's, leadership is about making others better as a result of your presence, and making sure that the impact lasts in your absence. And I think that all of you have spoken so true about that today, because you're making others better every day, and that making sure that impact lasts with the way you lead. And I really do appreciate the time that you've spent with me today. And I know that our audience has as well. So thank you for sharing your experiences, and for our audiences for watching the show and for following our series. We're on episode number 22. We're headed to episode number 23. This is a passion for me, as all of you know. And next time around, we're going to actually move forward to series 2 of the presidents. We have so many presidents that are part of our organization that we will have Act 2. We'll be featuring some of the additional presidents that are strong women leaders within our organization and our franchises. So we don't want to miss that show. And don't forget to join our Facebook page, share our episodes, and like our YouTube channel. And the show will air on June 9th for all of the watching. So mark your calendars for June 9th. And don't forget that as you lead up to the top of the ladder, bring as many women up with you as you climb to the top. Thanks again, everybody. Have a fantastic week. And we will see you on June 9th. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.